Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Today's January 13th, 2023, and I'm on a brand new machine, basically. I just reinstalled Windows yesterday. Got back up to speed as quick as I could so I could show up for my live stream, show up for you guys today, because today is going to be an interesting one for me and maybe somewhat boring for the stream. I'm just going to say that right up front. We're going to talk about starting a painting. And the first part of, let me make a note here. Starting a painting. This is what we're going to do. What we're going to work on today, starting a painting. And usually that takes on a lot of upfront work. A lot of work that I do to make sure that the painting that I'm going to be spending the time on is worth it, you know, that it's successful. And I think that's probably the most important. I'm going to pause for a second to check the volume because, yeah, I messed around with a lot of features to help out the sound of my stream. So I'm going to see what it sounds like. Well, sounds pretty good to me. Sounds pretty darn good. One thinker shows up, jumps in. When anybody else jumps in, I'll ask them about the sound, see how it goes. So let's talk about the process, kind of like an overview of what's going to happen. And it can happen in many different ways for many different people, but I'm going to go over what the way that I usually start. And for me, it always starts with an idea. And that idea could be, it could be visual, it could be in your head. So maybe you see something, maybe it's visual. So you see a picture, or something in life influences you. Maybe it's an event that you get an influence from. Maybe it's just completely from your mind. I'm going to make this bigger. So the ideas can come to you in many different ways, but this is where we want to start. This is the beginning of it. To have something to look forward to or work towards, because this is where it's going to be directing you on where to go to look for. I don't know, images. Well, I do know. Look for images, look for influences. In this world today, what normally happens, or what happens for me at least, is, you know, I can't spend money on models and things like that. So we're going to be working from photos. So it's going to be mostly photos. For models, basically. So that's where we begin. We begin on the idea. That's why I said this stream is not going to be very entertaining. I'm not going to be doing a lot of drawing this one. It's going to be maybe some thumbnailing if I get to that. But mainly we're going to be looking at imagery and trying to build an idea. One of the worst things that you can do here at this stage is to force it. So I'm going to say don't force it. If you don't have an idea, okay, if you don't have any idea of what you want to paint, then focus on something you want to get better at that you know you're not good at. So if you don't have an idea, if no idea, focus on skill. So that could be something like, you know, I did a whole series of figure paintings for a while. Let me go to my website real quick so I can make this as visual as possible. Back in the day when I restarted my art journey after 5 years of being off, not doing anything, I realized early on that I had lost a lot of skill. And I talk about this many times on my YouTube channel. And what I've done is I've logged every single day since then. I'm a couple days behind on logging on my website, on my blog. Today is day 3640. This is 3637. So 3656 or 3650 is going to be, hopefully that ends up on January 26th, because that will be 10 years exactly to the day. So I log every day, but what I want to show you is I want to go back in time, and I want to show you a time when I was just focusing on figurative works. It's going to be a lot further back. So I'm going to page this really quickly. Even further back than this. 13 pages in. Here it is, lots of figure drawing. This is August 2018, or maybe it's 2019. Good morning, Thinker. Hopefully you're having a wonderful morning. Thank you for showing up. Hey, let me know how the volume of the music and my voice sounds, if the music is too loud. I just reinstalled Windows and did a lot of work to try and get the volume of the stream, the sound on the stream, as perfect as I could. So let me know what it sounds like to you. Okay, so this is kind of the tail end of it. So I didn't really have, at this point, this is November 2017, okay? And actually I picked out this painting here that I did of my feet and hands for the thumbnail for the stream. And I actually had an idea for this one. This was actually pretty interesting. It was more on a skill level than anything. But the point of me showing you this is to show that there was months and months where I would just pick out an image from New Masters Academy, and I would draw that image. And at any point in time, you can go to, let's say, my paintings page. And I'll show you this, because a lot of those figures ended up here. I didn't know what to draw. For example, this one's called Recovery. And I didn't know what to paint. I didn't know what to do, so I decided to work on my skill as a figure painter, right? These are fairly small paintings, not very big, and 22 by 15. You can go to this at any point in time. You can see the sessions every day that I log, and as I scroll down, you can see this painting kind of being deconstructed all the way back to the drawing phase. I wonder if the images are working. I've been working on my website since then, and a lot of times the images don't work. So I have a lot of fixing to do for the past, but for thousands and thousands of days. So if you don't have an idea, the best thing to do is just work on what you want to work on. That could be a landscape. That could be just the starting of a figure painting. This is a series of paintings I did where I just sat with burnt umber, and I started painting from a figure and just started working up the drawing in with my brush on the canvas. I know this is traditional to digital, but it's more like the combination of traditional and digital. The music is a touch loud. Okay, let me bring it down. All right, that that should have brought it down a bit. Let me know if that's any better. If it's not, I'll continue to adjust. Your feedback is important. So yeah, there's all kinds of things that you can do if you don't have an idea for a bigger painting. The important part of that is to at least to do something. If you didn't see it when you first came in, thinker, we're going to be talking about starting a painting because you had the soup to nuts idea, and I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. That's going to direct everything that I do. If we work on a project together, all the way from idea up until a finished oil painting, and that's where I'm planning on taking it, is to a finished oil painting, maybe working it up completely in digital and then all the way to an oil painting. I think that's what you meant. All the way from, collecting the imagery, putting the idea together digitally, drawing it out, then drawing it on the canvas, going into oil painting after it. I just want to make sure that I'm aligned with what your question was about, because I think it's a great idea, but I don't want to get down this long road and find out that you're like, no, just all digital. So let me know. Really using you to this morning, thinker. I appreciate you. Okay, so the important thing is, if you don't have an idea, then just do something, right? Because there's getting to work and always having a mind for action is really important. Action. So getting better. If you don't have an idea for a painting that you think is going to sell well, or change someone's life, that's perfectly fine. You don't need that, because most of what this art game is all about is just getting started and just keeping going and improving your skill level. So this is where everything starts, is with an idea. The next step in the journey after idea is, I'm going to call collection. Let's say asset collection. So this is the next phase. I don't like doing that straight line underneath of it. You can see how off my writing is. Okay, so asset collection. It's so wonderful that we have the internet. And where I'm going to be starting off today is sites like Unsplash, which are free stock photography. And then there's Pexels, Pexels. There's probably some other ones out there. Another place, and I can't remember the name of it. Let me bring this down here. So we got Unsplash, we got Pexels. Just a quick Google search and all these will bring up. And then I want to look for movie stills. Film Grab is one of them. Shot Deck, but you have to pay for Shot Deck. But Film Grab is pretty nice. I get a lot of ideas from movies in general. And here are, we were talking about composition for 6 streams. This is a great place to see, composition, all about composition. because we're looking at a movie industry that is trained for composition. This is what they do. I mean, look at this amazing composition right here. So simple. It's kind of quiet. It's, everything straight lines. It's fantastic. But looking through the images here from movies and getting an idea of, something to paint, right? Or painting directly from these movies. There's some really beautiful, look at this, Ophelia. This is from a painting called Ophelia by, I can't remember the guy's name. Maybe it's a movie about the artist painting this painting. It's really interesting. Right along with J.W. Waterhouse around that time. But anyway, we start collecting assets, okay? So collecting imagery. I'm going to put down film grab. I wouldn't go for just a basic Google search, honestly. Google searches will not bring up the images you want most of the time. And it's gotten worse and worse. Like, they don't really focus on, showing you the best images. And then also you could run into imagery that you're not supposed to use in some way. Oh, I'm writing directly on the surface. I didn't create another layer like always. Always forget that. Okay, let's start it now. So the internet, Unsplash, pixels, film grab, photos you take yourself. That's really important as well. The thumbnail for this live stream is made from a painting that I did. This is it right here, feet and hands. So this is a photo of my feet and my hands that I took and then worked up the painting. And then, I didn't even know what kind of background to put on it. So it's just all black, because the purpose of this painting was to learn and look at all of the different colors in hands and feet, all the yellows and pinks and purples and greens that are there. So yeah, asset collection. Thinker says, I think, in quotes, for you to stay committed to this project, I think you yourself will need to be really passionate about the subject. Digital is a step along the journey. Yes, exactly. And that's one thing I wrote down in the notes. I even put it into the description of this live stream. This live stream is going to be all about starting a painting project. It will take film from the beginning to the end of a painting. I just need to pick out a painting project that I want to take that far. And that's really important. Instead of, and let's go back up to idea, because I don't want to understate oh, Pixabay, that's a good one. Pixabay. Motivation. Make sure that you're motivated to do it. These painting projects, they're not short term. And today's TikTok 30-second world, 60-second world, 15-second world, where I'm doing shorts that are 15-second long, and they're getting like the most views ever on my channel. It's a little bit annoying, to tell you the truth, but at least I'm showing off my work and introducing some individuals to my channel that may find some motivation through there. But this is the world we're living in, where attention spans are getting shorter and shorter and shorter. So it's even harder and harder for artists, for anyone to stay focused on something for as long as it takes, from the beginning to the end. Um, and when you start out a painting project, you have to really have that motivation. It's really kind of the foundation for this, because the motivation needs to take you through to, I would say, weeks or months. I found, I'm a very motivated individual, but I still found that if a painting goes over a month, or a month and a half, right around that area, my motivation tends to wane. And what we don't want to do is to turn the painting into kind of this thing that we kind of beat up ourselves over. Like, we still see it; it's sitting there on the canvas, and we're like, oh, I really should do this. I should get to that. I should paint more. I should show up every day and do better. It's like Tony Robbins says, stop shoulding on yourself, right? Should. You really can beat that at the beginning if you pick something where you're just super motivated about. And that can happen if, as long as the idea is strong enough. So you need a very strong idea. Whatever strong means to you, like strong emotionally. So it could be emotional to you. It could just be super cool. Right? Maybe you're motivated by a commission. And a lot of times I'm not very motivated by commissions, that kind of thing. I don't really do commissions. I haven't really gotten commissions, honestly. Because usually you'll get something that you really don't want to do, and then you just have to burn your way through it just to get the money from it. And I've heard this so many times from artists. They'll work on a painting that someone else wants them to do. And they'll say, well, I need to get the money from this, so yeah, I guess I'll do it. If you do something like that, if you're unmotivated, you're not going to put your best into it. It's going to turn out kind of crappy. They won't be happy. You won't be happy. Best to just turn it down. Or change it so that it's a bit more simple to get to. In that kind of aspect. So yeah, gotta have that motivation. So, and if you don't have an idea, lean on that asset collection, where you look at imagery that you're really motivated by. Okay. So this is what we're going to do today. We're going to come up with an idea, and then we're going to work on asset collection. Let me actually get through some more of the next steps first, though. I think that's important. I'm going to actually save this. 15 is going to be this. We're on number 15 today. I don't want to lose this. Sorry, guys. Okay. So let's go on to the next step. So after you've collected your images, the next thing that I'm going to do on this is it's going to be called manipulation. Let's say manipulation and composition. Right? Actually, I could just call it composition, really. Actually, yeah, let's do that. Let's change it up. Because at this point, I would go into my design phase, the design sheet that I showed back in the several streams ago. And even if you have no idea and you're doing something where you're focusing on skill, and you pick out an image that you're like, oh, this will be really cool to do. I'm gonna put that down. Find an image you would love to paint. Even if you don't have an idea, make sure that you find an image that you would love to paint. And it can already have the composition and everything built into it. Like, oh yeah, I just want to paint this exactly. But most of the time you'll see something and you'll get a bunch of imagery and you'll say, oh, it doesn't quite match what I want, but it's close. So the manipulation and the composition will have to come within that. But that love, that interest, that idea, no matter how small, should feed your composition. Instead of feed, I'm going to say direct. And actually, the love, the idea should feed everything you do. Every single stroke, every single preparatory thing you do, you always check back within that idea. Always review the idea to make sure your painting is aligned to it. Spending all this time writing things down and people are going to look at it and go, oh my gosh, I can't even read this guy's writing. Better watch the live stream. Can't read Chris's writing. But always make sure that you're aligned to it, because this is the director. You're not going to have some, if you're making a movie, you're going to have a director over your shoulder, right? Your idea is your director here. Write it down, right? Oh, that's so funny, because as soon as I said that and write it down, Thinker, you said, and you need to write your idea down in some specificity. No? Yes. As soon as I said it, I'm like, yeah, I missed that point. We probably should write that down. Let's put it over here. It's gonna go write it down. But that's going to be part of our kind of composition phase, because I'm going to be using that, what do you call it? The design process document. I need to call that a painting process. It's not really a design process, it's a painting process. So I'll be right within that design process document or painting process document. We'll write things down and we'll really think about the painting and get it kind of figured out within that. So the painting process Krita doc, and that's going to have, my W's are terrible. I'm at kind of a weird orientation here. Good morning. Roaded boat. Nice. So we're at that process, we're going to write, we're going to define, thumbnail, and comp. Comp, the shortest word of composition, is not the entire, well, it is a composition, but we're going to create little comps that we'll work from. And then I need more sheet here. So that's Control Alt C for more canvas. We're going to double this height at 4,000, change my anchor. Here we are. So after the composition phase, after you've figured out what you want to do, you got the idea, you got your assets collected, we're going through the Krita document, we wrote it all out, we defined, we thumbnailed, and we're like, okay, yeah, this is the composition that I want to go for. The next phase is going to be detailed, what we're going to call that. Yeah, let's call it the drawing phase. Let's keep it simple. So the drawing phase. And I'm going to move this over so I can actually do this without hurting my body and back, because I'm like kind of leaned over all over the place. So with the drawing phase, we're going to figure out all the details. It's going to start simple and then gain complexity. We're going to figure out things like anatomy, proportion. What else? Anatomy, proportion, perspective. Light. Just in the value kind of aspect. I'm going to say form as well. Accuracy. All these things. And that, you know, the purpose of this is, you know, from my years of experience, if you don't do all this work and you just say, okay, I have this awesome idea, I'm just going to grab some pictures and I'll build it on the canvas as I'm painting. What you're doing there is, yeah, you're getting to work right away, and it may work out, but I found that more often than not, if I don't go through this entire process where I'm building things, I could get a couple days into the project and I'm like, this is sucking. I thought this was going to be cool, but it's terrible, right? I don't know the drawing. I don't know this. I don't know that. And you'll end up just abandoning it. So not getting too far and just stopping. Or you'll get all the way to the end of the painting and figure out, well, you know, I worked really hard on that painting, but the composition could have been a lot better. Maybe the anatomy could have been a lot better. I just didn't pick the right photo. You know, I could have worked this up a little bit in different ways to kind of figure some things out. Because what you're doing is you're piling up everything at once onto yourself, which is really hard to do, especially if you've never done a full-length painting before. You're doing the idea along with the asset collection, the manipulation, the composition, the drawing, which is the most complex thing, anatomy, proportion, perspective, light, form, color. I mean, you've added color onto it too, which would be the second thing, you know, after drawing. Doing that all at once is going to give you, it's going to provide more chances for failure, for giving up. So we're basically stacking bricks here. Let's get the foundation laid so that we know, okay, this is going to be a fairly successful painting. At the end part of it, it's going to be joyful because you know the drawing, you have the idea, you got the composition figured out, you have all your assets in order, The painting's basically done. You just have to have fun doing the oil painting. That's what we get to. So the drawing phase is going to have really two phases to it. And let's do this. I'm going to say drawing digital. Okay. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I'm gonna change this into some multiple phases. I'm gonna work it up digitally first, and then take it to a painting, and then rework it in the painting as well. So basically, do the painting twice: once digitally and once traditionally. So the drawing phase digitally. And within here, we also want to get feedback. So we can make corrections. Do we still love it? Wow, I need to write better. Do we still love it? And that's really important. Don't be afraid to abandon. And you know, I'm glad that I'm doing this because it's giving me some ideas on how to be a bit more successful myself with my paintings. I'm going to go back to my website and show you a few things on my daily art. Actually, I can go back to fairly recently and show you paintings that I've abandoned a lot. So I worked up this painting. This is Standing on the Edge of the World. So I worked this up digitally, okay? And I was really psyched at this painting. I was like, oh, wow, did we use that word? We were psyched anymore? Anyway, I was really motivated to paint this painting. I couldn't wait to really get it on the canvas. But the one thing that I didn't think of, and I'm trying to remember back, because I started working on it in the painting. Here I am drawing it out. I used a grid to draw it out because I built it digitally as well, all myself. So, and I took the painting this far. So this is the oil painting. It's actually sitting over there to the right of me. I don't know. I had 5 or 6 sessions on it, and yeah, I'm done. I don't feel like working on this anymore. Yeah, I'm gonna abandon it, and I'll probably paint over it. I've done that so many times, and it's not a big deal. You learn something every time you work. You don't have to come out with an end project every single time. You would like to. And this is one thing that I want to prepare here. I feel like that if I was at this phase within the painting, that, and I asked myself, do I still love it? Does it warrant a longer term painting? Maybe I would have said no. And I think what happened is in this stage, this was, last year, September, October, November, I got really influenced by AI art. I was on Midjourney, and I was generating a lot of compositions that I loved, and then I would take them into Krita, and I would manipulate those compositions and change them how I wanted to change them, and then start paintings. Here's another one. I started this painting, and that's how far I got to it, because the whole digital thing kind of died for me. The one painting that I did finish that I really worked my butt off on was this one. And why was this one finished? So this was influenced by AI art, but I finished this one because I had attached an emotion to it. How many projects do I have going at the same time? Right now I have I have 5 going at the same time right now, or 4. I just finished 1. So um, that's another good point. But I'll talk about that in a second. After I think what's most important is whatever project you start, you see and check in on your emotion with it at every stage. Am I still emotionally invested in this? So I have an older brother, and this painting here is called Starry Night because I did a lot of manipulation inside of Midjourney with kind of Van Gogh-like stuff, and then I brought it into Krita and continued manipulation of this image, added in a few more assets, and instead of it calling it Starry Night, I still need to add it to my website and take photos of it and all that. I'm going to call it The Dream of Two Brothers because I have an older brother, and I thought it would be pretty cool. Maybe he's listening to this right now. I know he listens to my streams. So this is going to be kind of a dedication to me and him and our lives together and when we were young and our dreams of the future that we're in right now, that we're living right now. So because I attached that emotion to it, I was able to finish it. But the rest of the whole AI art thing that happened just kind of died. The more I was looking into how people were using AI art and taking advantage of it and really stealing other artists' names through it, I just got kind of sick of it. So I dropped all of digital stuff, and that really kind of killed it for me, unfortunately. I would put down here on your asset collection AI because it can come up with some wonderful compositions that I would never pull directly out of AI and paint directly. I would always, have my hand in it, but it's a wonderful place. It's a tool for inspiration. And if everybody just used it for inspiration, I think it would be wonderful. But unfortunately, it's being used for selling. Not only that, it's being used to say, hey, I look at what I painted or drew all my own. No, these are all AI stuff, like a lot of these AI things. But I tell you what, I still go on ArtStation and see what has come from ArtStation, those artists, and I'm like, yeah, the AI has nothing on them. Like a candle in the wind, right? Okay. So the important part of that is attach that emotion to it. Even if you are at this phase, you're getting feedback. If you don't love it, can you attach emotion to it? Can you get a narrative out of it to keep you moving forward? If no, this is fine because you're only into the digital phase and you can just abandon it. You learned what you learned on that. You worked it up digitally. Go on to the next project. And I think that's important. There is something to be said for finishing, for learning to finish something, but I don't know. It's kind of, I could go either way. I'm thinking of Jake Parker, who is one of the creators of School of Visual Storytelling. He has a really great YouTube channel, and he does emails like weekly or whatever. I like a lot of things that he says, but one of his videos, he talks about what you need is a project, or a product, not a project, because that will get you to finish all the time. And I can agree with him to a point because it's all about finish, but if you're slogging through something, you're like, I hate this, you're not going to do it your best, but maybe you can get through it and just get on to the next. But to address Thinker's question, how many projects you have going at the same time? I have several. I have too many right now, honestly. I have 4 going at the same time. 2 or 3 should be the max projects at the same time. And it's another way to keep motivation. Maybe you put it aside for later. To come back to it. Start another project. A lot of times it's very motivating because if you're working days and days and days on the same thing, you're getting kind of tired of it. You know, you move on to the next project, but make a pact with yourself to come back to that project, because there's a tendency to have too many projects going at the same time and to never finish anything. At some point, you want to start finishing stuff. And that's what this plan could help you do, is to get to a point where you can actually finish things. Did I count this one as a project? No, I haven't counted this one. Probably should, right? And then you add into my job that I have every day, so that's another project. You add in my videos that I have going right now. I'm actually, the projects I was talking about are all videos, except I didn't add in the one that I'm going to be doing about a color wheel. That's probably going to be the one I can get out next. And then I want to create another video series that are really short video series, like a 3-minute video series. I got so much in the works that I want to do. That's great though. I really enjoy it. Okay, so after the drawing, digital phase. Oh wait. Yeah, one other thing on the feedback, make corrections, you know, check your drawing. Basically, you're getting feedback so you can improve on that drawing. That's probably one of the best ways to get feedback. You know, in your digital, you can get feedback from others maybe. It's the kind of thing where if you ask feedback from others, always say thank you, regardless of what they say. And don't try to manipulate the feedback. I see artists do this all the time. I've done it all the time. If you're getting feedback on your artwork, don't say, don't apologize. Don't try to lead them into anything. Just say, hey, what do you think about this? You know, you got any thoughts on this painting? Most of the time you'll get like, yeah, it's okay. And nothing else. Sometimes it's helpful, sometimes it's not. Or the most important thing that you're looking for is when you ask others is if they say, that looks kind of weird. You know, they won't be able to tell you that the proportions are off on your figure or something like that. They're going to say that's kind of weird. And don't ask your mom or your dad. Because they'll just tell you it's awesome, no matter what. They don't want to hurt your feelings. Family sometimes doesn't want to hurt your feelings. Ask the brother you hate, or the brother that hates you, or the sister that doesn't like you. or ask your other artists, you know, that you can trust to get feedback to. So after you draw it digitally, you have the digital drawing done, right? Now I think it's time to color digitally. But I wonder about this. I don't know if this is the best next phase. And I think I'm wondering about that, but because it's one of the hardest phases for me. So I'm going to throw it in as a challenge. So color and digital, which within this phase, you have basically the light done, the value of everything. So you'll have the value. The color should be a lot easier to work up as long as you have the value. And a lot of times even in the composition phase, you will have picked like your palette. And if you hadn't, you know, we can do it here. Pick your palette and do non-destructive coloring. So what do I mean by that? You know, something where you can try like 10 or 11 different color combinations over the whole painting, you know. Keep it simple. And just get some ideas going and figure out what you like, what you don't like, what figure out what enhances the idea more. And that's probably the more important part about this, is each one of these is they're building on the idea. One of my videos I talk about this because it was such a huge moment for me in my art. If I go to my website, chrisbevan.com, and I go to drawings, one of my most influential drawings that I've ever done, I was doing this series called Fandom Fitness. Me and my wife were trying to make a book about workouts based on fandoms, where a lot of, if you go to like Comic-Cons and things like that, a lot of times you'll see a lot of unhealthy individuals. I think a lot of introverts are not very healthy, you know, this kind of thing. So we were building this fandom fitness book, and we found out after I did a bunch of these drawings, you know, after I called a lawyer on this, that publishing all of these drawings in a book, there would be a lot of copyright problems, right? Because people own all these characters. There's an ownership there. So be careful about that too. But one of my most influential ones was this drawing of Spock. Because at this point in the phase, because this is in chronological order, I did Gandalf, and I'm just, you know, drawing exactly from the photo. I was doing Xena, and boy, I could not get Xena's head right. I drew her like 20 different times. I had a lot of problem with Xena. Still didn't come out with a drawing I liked. Did 11 from Stranger Things, Captain Marvel, Spock, and then kept working it up. But up until this point, I would say 11 from Stranger Things is a bit close because I'm trying to get an understanding of the character here. And I picked a point in the story where you could see that she was just a child that was hungry and had a hard life and was just in there stealing some Eggo waffles. That kind of humanity I liked. You know, you take all of the, you know, fantastical things out of it, right? And you still have, you know, a human connection. That's what I got from that. But then Spock was the realization that happened, which was, I asked the question, how can I, in charcoal, describe the character that is Spock, right? Not just within copying his likeness, but how could I describe who they are? So if you created a definition for Spock, it would be logical, scientific, to the point. What do you call it? Like, there's no, he doesn't play around. He'll just give it to you straight kind of guy, right? And I was thinking, okay, how do you describe logical in a charcoal drawing? How do you what does a logical line look like? Well, the answer to that was a straight line. What does a scientific line look like? Very straight, hard edges, nothing but 90-degree angles, just very straight. And so I drew this entire drawing within straight lines. There was, as much as I could, no curves, although there's a lot of little small straight lines that made up curves and things like that. But I created I created logical Spock through all of these lines. And that kind of really opened up, this emotional connection with these drawings. And even though after all these drawings I couldn't use them, I still am really proud of all these drawings, especially the ones after Spock. Like with Harry Potter, I looked at Harry Potter, and the one part in these movies, I love the books, by the way. I read the books. I read them like 2 or 3 times, honestly. Just fantastic. So good. Best books ever, I would have to say. Wow. Yeah, and I started reading those in my 30s, right? Anyway, I picked a point in his life where he realized, spoiler alert if you haven't seen, or where he realized that he needed to die, right? Just very human. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, one of my most favorite movies ever. I didn't pick out the most action-oriented scene. Oh, this is a very action-oriented scene. It's very angular. I picked out the point in the movie, like the essence of the entire movie was culminated in this point. It's where his father called him Indy, or Indiana, instead of Junior, because his name was Junior. It was that father-son connection. It's these kind of emotions, these kind of ideas. Martin Luther King Jr., one of my heroes, right? I looked at Martin Luther King Jr. in these two drawings, and I thought, what does a courageous line look like? What does stone and rock in a person, look like? What, how do you describe the individual, the great individual that is Dr. Martin Luther King in charcoal or in graphite? And I tried to do my best on that. These are really hard questions, right? Courage, what does a courageous line look like? Okay, that's Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Storm from Marvel Comics. This is a good example of manipulation, because I didn't do the latest Storm from the movies was Jada Pinkett, I believe. Yeah. And I looked at, I used to collect the X-Men comics, and I looked at her history, and she was of mixed descent, like African, and I believe her father was American. I can't remember. But it was a lot of, there was a lot going on at that time, politically and stuff like this. So I picked out Lupita Nyong'o, who was a model from Africa. Just extremely beautiful person. And I remember there was a lot of discussion about the whitening of Storm, because I believe she started out in the comic books fairly dark as a person that was from Africa, and then she kept getting lighter and lighter and lighter throughout the comic books. And the straight hair, the straight flowing hair. So I made a statement within that, and it was close to, what I wanted to do there. The death of Robin Williams. I always loved the Peter Pan movie, although I watched it again when I was doing this drawing, and I was like, wow, that did not hold up. But I tried to capture this kind of sadness in his eyes, even though he's got a smile on his face, the eyes are kind of, attaching this emotion. I'm just talking about my artwork here, but the important point on this is trying to figure out what is the emotion within this. And this will take you through everything. So even we're in the coloring, the digital coloring phase. And this could be if you need it. Maybe you're doing just something in black and white. Does it enhance the idea? Always going back to that and keeping the emotion. I'm going to say that. Keep the emotion alive. It's so important. I'm going to back out just a little bit on this, and I do want to, I won't back out. I do want to finish this up. I'm going to be going over my stream time, like always. Well, we'll do the last ones a bit faster. Okay, so after we color, we have it worked up in digital, we have the drawing worked up, we have the value worked up, everything's there. The next thing is the transfer. transfer to canvas. And for this one, I am going to recommend a grid. Because we've worked it up until here. We want to get all of that transferred over to the canvas. But I'm going to say no tracing. Because it's another chance for you to think of the drawing, to think of the form, to get a better understanding of what you're creating. But the grid helps you get it in place on the canvas. And the one thing that I forgot at the very beginning, and we'll do this within asset collection. Or no, we'll do it within composition. Build it to, oh geez, what am I doing? So build it to a size of canvas you have, or that you can buy. Right? A lot of times I'll make up this like crazy composition. I'm like, oh, I love this. And then it's, you know, I would have to go out and build this canvas because it's a weird ratio. So I'm going to say standard ratios, or let's say standard canvas sizes. And then also make sure the canvas is large enough. That's really important because if you're doing a figure, I mean, digitally, I can do this and I can work on an eyeball that's that big and it'll be fine, right? But when you transfer it to a canvas and you have this little tiny head that's that big, that you have to get a lot of detail in, it's going to be really difficult. So if the focus of your entire composition is a portrait, and then you think about it in canvas sizes, and that portrait is, you know, a 1 inch by 1 inch square, you're going to have some issues, okay? Your entire focal point is so tiny that you can't get any detail in it whatsoever. You can't get any hard edges or nothing. So you have to plan it for the real world as well, which, you know, a lot of people don't do. Which, you know, is good because, I mean, if you worked up a digital painting that you're happy with and you want to print it out, you don't want to have to print it out at a billboard size just so people can see your center of interest, right? So sizing is really important there. So let's go back to transfer to the canvas. So we're going to grid it out. The grid would be, yeah, everybody I think knows what the grid. So you grid it out digitally, you grid it out on your canvas, your white canvas, hopefully a gray canvas, and then you draw it. And the next part of that is going to be check your drawing. Check your drawing. And this is going to be back to digital. And I'll have to show you that one. There's some complexity within that. There's taking photos of what you've drawn, taking it into something like Lightroom, making sure that it's straight and it's flat, and then comparing it directly and getting that feedback from your original digital work to make sure that your drawing's on. So you transfer to canvas, and then feedback, and then correct. And then finally, put a little arrow, the next one, paint. Oh, and I could create a whole other sheet, 2 or 3 other sheets for this process. Coming soon. Okay, that was a lot. I told you it's going to be kind of boring, not very visual. we didn't even get into collecting ideas. And I think I'm going to do that today while you're not watching. I'm going to work on the idea that I want to create and come up with an idea. I have a bunch of them. I'm going to pick out one that's going to work with this. Oh, here's a hint where ideas, you can come up with on ideas. Music. I get a lot of ideas from music. Poetry and music. Two of the places. A lot of music is poetry anyways. I'm influenced by music a lot, and you can look at, listen to the lyrics, and you're like, wow, that would be a beautiful scene to paint. Yeah. Or movies. Anything you love. Start there. Start with what you love. Definitely. Thinker says, excellent. Thanks, Thinker. I'm so glad you're here. I would just be talking to myself. But if there's any day that you can't show up, I'll be fine. I'll totally be fine. I don't want to put too much of a burden on you. So tomorrow I'll be coming into the stream and I'll have something for us to start with. I can't wait. I'm excited about this. Yeah, for now, I need to get on to another painting, traditional painting. And I can't wait. Still working on that. Painting the ears today. Anyway, thank you for showing up. Thanks for being here. I hope this was helpful. My purpose here is to make you, the artist, a better version of yourself, or help you become a better version of yourself. And with that, I will see you guys tomorrow.